Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast. My name is Kevin Henry. I'm the founder of Dental Assistant Nation as well as the host of this podcast. So glad you joined us and so glad to have a returning guest on today, and that's Allison Lacoursiere. Allison, how are you?
Thanks so much for thanks so much for having me. I am doing so well. I'm excited to be on this podcast again.
I am glad to have you back. We're going to talk aligners. We're going to talk empowerment for assistants. I can't wait for that. But before we dive in, I want our audience, if they didn't hear your first episode, to know a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So I started off as a dental assistant from Canada and went right into ortho, became an ortho assistant, moved myself to the island of Bermuda for a dental assisting job, became the treatment coordinator of that practice, became the office manager of that practice, and then decided to start my own coaching and consulting company in 2020 and become a professional speaker. And so now I spend most all of my time really speaking, traveling, consulting and coaching practices and hosting Women in Digital Dentistry and the Clear Aligner Boot Camp, which we'll talk about later. But I really spend a lot of my time just empowering dental teams and dental assistants a lot of the time to step into their greatness.
And how does your background as a dental assistant help you empower them today through everything that you're doing with the aligners, digital dentistry, all of that?
Oh my gosh, I think one of the biggest responses I get from my lectures is dental assistants coming up to me and saying, like, this is really inspiring me to know that I can do so much with my career. Because I think sometimes, like, I felt when I was a dental assistant, I'm like, how do I expand and grow? And how do I really take ownership of my position? And there are so many ways you can do that as a dental assistant that might just not seem completely obvious, or they're not like, nobody in the practice is like, hey, here are the other things you can do. For me, I'm a little bit of a bulldog in the sense of just, going for it and trying new things. And so when I can share with other dental assistants, like, look, like you can do so much in this career, in this profession. And here's how I did it. And here's how I continue to grow and evolve and just really love my career as a dental assistant. I think it's just helpful to see other people doing that.
And I know one of your passions obviously is aligners and the difference that it makes in individuals. And we both know the assistant plays such a key role with that. How have you seen the dental assistant's role evolve whenever it comes to aligners and maybe even digital dentistry as a whole?
Oh my gosh, it's huge. It's so fun. So when I went from working in an orthodontic practice as an ortho assistant and then back into a GP practice, one of the things I really missed was my autonomy. Like I loved working with patients one-on-one, and that's what you get to do as a dental assistant working with clear aligners. And so all of the processes and the procedures in the practice, from the appointments, the aligner checks, the bonding very often, the scanning, the consult, all of that can be done by a dental assistant. And I loved that part of my job. And so for any practice that's scaling their clear aligners, they need to have a really powerful dental assistant to be able to support that system. And I see it growing more and more today because the clear aligner industry is growing more and more to the point where, like, when I was hiring as a office manager, I'm like asking them, like, do you have Invisalign experience? Do you have clear aligner experience? And if they said yes, I was like, absolutely, like, good, because this is going to help our practice so much.
And I've got to ask you about gaining that experience because we know some of the assistants listening to this podcast are not going to be working in a practice that has taken that step into clear aligners yet. Is that something that you think dental assistants should, even if they're not doing it today, be prepared for that in the future and take that training?
100%. So, like, I'm on the board for some dental assisting schools now trying to incorporate clear aligner therapy into their curriculum because I think that's the future. Like, it really is. It's not going away. It's only getting bigger. And so when I was a dental assistant, like, I went into doctor courses. I found everything I could online. I was taking courses on the Align Digital platform, like in my evenings. Like, I was so hungry for that knowledge. And that was 10 years ago. And so 10 years forward, we have so much more access to online education as dental assistants. And my boss never told me to do them. He never, in many cases, never paid for some of the work that I did. But I just went and I was hungry for that knowledge and I invested in myself. And so I think, like, for any dental assistant listening to this and you want to gain more information and more knowledge, there's so much online you can learn now, and better, like, just elevate yourself and take ownership of that position and say like, I'm trained and I have taken certifications, I've taken online courses in clear aligner therapy, and it will make you more valuable.
And I love that you invested in yourself, because I think as we're talking about dental assistant empowerment, that's a big part of it, is not waiting for somebody to empower you, but you empowering yourself through knowledge like this.
Oh my gosh, that honestly, if I could like dial it back and say what is the one thing that was like the key to your success, it was not waiting for somebody to choose me or to invest in me. It was, I'm going to invest in myself first. And what that does is it shows everyone around you, wow, she's serious or he's serious in their own personal education, and they will invest in you after that because they're like, they chose to elevate themselves already on their own. Let's give them new opportunities.
What was the big thing for you that made you make this move from being a dental assistant into being a speaker, being a leader, being a thought leader out there?
Honestly, it was the vision. I love education. I love learning. And I sat through so many CE courses. And there was just one day I remember watching this lecture and I was like, I could do this. Like, I know enough. I have really interesting perspectives. I'm really passionate about teaching. And as a manager at the time, like I had taught probably like 20 team members who had come and started in our practice working there for a decade. And I'm like, I'm actually a good teacher. I'm a good speaker. Let me invest again in myself to get the skill set to be a speaker. So I did Dale Carnegie, I did Toastmasters, I went to Catherine Eitel, got transformed as a trainer, went to Vanessa Emerson. I found the people in dentistry that could help me. And then I invested in training to be a good speaker because I wanted to make sure I got on stage and like captivated an audience or really helped people in that process.
You know, I love that you're doing the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast. Obviously, I want to encourage our listeners to check that out as well. And we know that the dentistry is becoming such a female-dominated profession. What is it that you see that really draws the female side into dentistry, and how is that going to keep growing in your mind?
I think that women are naturally very nurturing and they want to help. And we're also good with like details and detail oriented, which is, of course, dentistry and like the artistry around dentistry. And so I really, you know, I think dentistry's always been very female dominated in the sense that the team has been majority female. And so when we have the team already being female, and then now we have more than 50% of our doctors coming out of dental school as women, I think we have this beautiful strength of being able to be very connected to our patients in that kind of nurturing, empathetic, kind way, to help them relieve their fear and to also be able to just bring kind of like, I guess, like the power that women have to the dental industry. And, men or women can be different. They have a lot of similarities and they both have strengths and individual characteristics that are different, and both are important. And so I think like one of the things as we move into having a very feminine workforce is really owning what it means to be a woman in business and to be a woman in the workforce, and knowing what your strengths are and leaning into them.
We know so much of our audience is female. We know dental assisting is a very female-dominated geographic area. Sorry, let me say that over. Sorry. We know that dental assistants are very female dominated. We know that this has been something that's gone for years now. How do you see women empowering each other? Because that's one topic that I see so much, and obviously as a man, I can't relate to that. But I see that it's becoming more and more of a talking point out there in our industry.
100%. And, there is this like old school kind of narrative or rhetoric around women being competitive and women being like catty or talking bad about each other. And the reality and the truth is an empowered woman would never drag another woman down. That's just the truth. Like an empowered woman who loves herself, who is confident in herself, who feels good in her own self would never drag down another woman. And so I always say, like, if you have any like negative experiences with people being mean or nasty in practices, it's only because that person does not truly love or, feel empowered themselves. And so when we have more empowered women in our industry who truly do feel confident, who feel, excited about their profession, there's this natural sisterhood that women have where we want to care for each other. It's so innate. It's so natural. Like I was on a plane a few weeks ago and a woman's like, "Can you hold my baby?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, of course." Like women just do that. Like that's who we are. And so the way, truly, this is what I believe, the way we empower other women is first we empower ourselves. Because it's very hard to feel happy for somebody succeeding when you don't feel happy for yourself. It's very hard not to feel jealous or insecure when other people are succeeding when you don't feel that way yourself. And so when we can have more women empower them as individuals, then it's a natural progression that we lift everyone else up around us.
I love that. Take care of ourselves first. I love that idea. And I've got to ask you, looking into your crystal ball, we're recording this at the end of 2024. We see the weeks kind of dialing away as we're going to get into 2025. What do you see as the dental assistant's role in this digital, dentistry environment that just seems to keep growing as we head into the new year?
Oh my gosh, it's like I get goosebumps when you ask that question because it's so much. And there isn't any one body or regulating system that's going to share with the world that this is the new role of a digital dental assistant. But I will say, like, as dentistry becomes more digital, the role of the dental assistant is going to continue to blow up and to expand in really fun ways. And the cool thing about like the dental assistant profession is like we're so nimble and we're so adaptable and we learn quickly because that's just part of the nature of the job. But utilizing and leveraging technology, taking ownership and being a leader in the practice around technology is going to become critical. And I think that like we already rely so much on our dental assistants. We're going to rely even more on them to be able to implement the technology that we're going to need to take best care of our patients. And so if you're a dental assistant today, I think you're so well positioned. And just as an encouragement to you, like don't let the definition of your role currently put you into a box because the dental industry is evolving and expanding so much, as is your role. And you can be that person in the practice who thinks, how can I bring more value, support the practice more, help with this technology, implement it? Because the answer is yes, it really is.
Nice. So last question for you. As we get into 2025, what's that one wish that you would have for every dental assistant out there? Is it the empowerment side of things? Is it putting yourself into the position for success, or what would it be from you?
For every single dental assistant would be to walk into the practice every day and know how important they are and how valuable they are, and that there are really no boundaries on their role on this profession, and that the future is really, really great. And I think like we often as women, especially, we can be hard on ourselves or we can have imposter syndrome or we can think like, well, that's not my job or I'm not qualified for that. You are. You can be. And whatever vision you have of your career, get very clear on that vision and then start stepping towards it because it's so, so possible.
Love all of that. So Allison, let people know how they can find out more about you and some of the services that you offer.
Yes. Find me on Instagram at Allison Lacoursiere or Your Clear Aligner Coach. And then I have a boot camp for dental team members to go through to learn how to become a leader in clear aligners in their practice, from scanning, bonding, conversation, all of that stuff. And you go to domoreclearalignercases.com to find out more about that. And then I have a group of women who are dental assistants, dental hygienists, doctors, you name it, join in my Clearly Worthy leadership program. And so I have coaching for team members who want to just continue to evolve and expand into their career and their life.
Well, we're going to put Allison's Instagram in the show notes, as well as some of the links that she just mentioned there. So it's going to be real easy for you to connect with Allison. And you can hear the passion she's got in her voice for you dental assistants and everything that you can do if you invest in yourself. So Allison, thanks so much for the time. It's always good to catch up with you.
Kevin, thank you for having this podcast and for building this community for dental assistants. I think it's very important in our industry. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm honored to do it and honored that all of you took time out of your busy schedule to listen to this episode with Allison. Hey, I hope you heard some of the things that she said, and I hope that you'll take them to heart as we're looking ahead to 2025 and all the great things that you can do in the new year. Until next time, it's Kevin Henry, host of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast, signing off, and as always, wishing you nothing but success ahead.